Let's break down these prints. Like and subscribe to Blow and Grind. Holla at your boy and appreciate it. So I got a lot of guys that say, man, splicing's easy. I just can't figure out what to splice, or I can't figure out what's on these prints or what I'm supposed to do. And that was my experience too. I think I was splicing like nobody's business first or second day, stripping, cleaning, cleaving, burning. But you couldn't have handed me a print and sent me off in the field and it made any kind of a sense to me. So the legend of the print itself is critical, as well as understanding what the units on the print mean. So we need to know the definitions to some things. So in every master set of prints, there's gonna be like a cover sheet, then there's gonna be a unit summary, and then there's gonna be a general map of the entire job. Then the individual prints start coming after that to each splice location. I'm not sitting here looking at it, but I'm thinking that on the legend, the most important things we need to understand are what the splice point symbol is, the pole or ped symbol is, what a new fiber cable, existing fiber cable, and an MST cable symbol on the print is. Now when it comes to the units, at this first splice location here, it says Fosk large. That's a Tyco D or a Corning 450D enclosure. It's got SD dongle. That's a 10-foot long, 12 fiber flat drop MST with a connector on the end that allows the MST daisy chains to plug into. It just sticks about this far out the back of the splice case. Open it up like it's a drop, put the buffer tube in the tray. It's got prints for HO1s, that's the actual splice itself, the burn. It's got a unit for a splitter. A PM92 is basically the snowshoe or the dressing and grounding of the enclosure. Once you've got it built and spliced, that SB Fiat, that's the MST itself. It could be a 500 footer, 350, 1,000. Depends on what the unit code said. One of those I saw on there was set 500. That FHOT is a unit for testing. So we've got to understand what the lines and dots and X's and all the things on the print means. And we need to understand what all these units mean. So that 63, that 063, that's the identification of the splitter and the splice location that's going to be feeding all these MSTs daisy chaining through this neighborhood. It said there's 7 HO1s, so 7 splices. 1 through what there's 4 of them. They're going to be daisy chaining 4. Although we spliced 6, they're going to have two more potential daisy chains of those MSTs. Now when you look at the splice location, you see those 2 green triangles, that means a new splice. You see that X underneath of it, right above that little red line, that's the symbol of the pole. And then if you look right below that red line, that's the pole number. It says some numbers -2000. That's the telephone pole number itself. It could very well have been a pedestal, but just this happens to be an aerial job. Those red lines coming off of that splice location are the MSTs. One of them says 500 foot, so it's gonna pull it into the back of that splice case on that little pigtail that we spliced, that dongle, and it's gonna run 500 foot to whatever the pole that it says on that print, and it's gonna mount there. Then they could very well plug another MST box cable into it and run another 500 foot if it's got at least two fibers spliced into it. Now, one thing to keep in mind when you're splicing these dongles, these MST pigtails, you always start on blue, because even if you're on fiber number 8 from the splitter, you splice fiber number 8 to the blue fiber of that pigtail, because if you put it on fiber 8, it would have to have been daisy chained 8 times and it would only heat up that 8th MST box. So if your count is 8 to 12 on one of those dongles, those MST pigtails, you're gonna splice it 1 through 5. Now, if you look at that pole, that's whatever -2000, you see those 3 circles that says 50 feet with a circle around it. That means there's gonna be 3 50-foot ends of cables that you've got to dress out, tape down, and get it down to your trailer or table or whatever you're working with. A 50-foot and 100-foot, that would mean that there's a loop there, and they're wanting you to mid-enter that cable. They would have cut it and made it 50-foot ends if they didn't want it mid-enter, so you got to pay attention to stuff like that. Now, that's a lot of information and it's hard to explain. We're not going to get into the counts of what splices from the main line to the splitter, and then from the splitter to the MST pigtails. That'll be the next video. This winter's had me rather misanthropic lately, so I'll do my best to explain this stuff. Like and subscribe. Stay tuned.